Sean Baker is undeniably one of the best indie filmmakers working today. His earlier stuff definitely has an acquired taste to it, but I'm glad he's becoming more of a mainstream name. Now, his film before the Florida Project, which gave him fame, is Tangerine, which opened to incredible critical acclaim but unfortunately didn't seem too popular with the public, although the people that did watch it seemed to really enjoy it. Now, in today's video, I want to look at the equipment Sean Baker used, which will be quick, the techniques he used to create the look, and how he used the budget correctly, as even though the budget was only $100k, they made almost $1 million at the box office.
The decision to make Tangerine came long before the decision to shoot on the iPhone.
So luckily, this is a really easy section. Sean Baker shot this film on an iPhone, well, 3 iPhones, the 5S to be exact. Now, these were the best iPhones at the time of filming, as even though the film was released in 2015, principal photography took place in late 2013. Now, that's pretty much all you need to make a film, a camera. And I think films like this and Unsane just show how much equipment doesn't matter. If your story is solid, people are going to watch. However, Baker did have a couple more things up his sleeve to make the iPhone look a bit better. First of all was an anamorphic adapter from Moondog Labs, which he was able to get for free from their Kickstarter campaign, and this allows him to get an anamorphic look on an iPhone. And it wasn't just a crop. Now, Moondog Labs seems to still be going today, the website is updated and you can still buy stuff, but I've never used them so I can't confidently recommend them. The other piece of equipment Baker used though was Tiffon's Steadicam Smoothie. It's basically a small Steadicam for an iPhone, and whilst it seems to have done the job well, I'm sure if this film was made today, Baker would have gone with something more like an Osmo for a bit more control, even if it doesn't look as natural. He then used Filmic Pro in order to have more control over his image, as the app gives you the ability to manually shoot on an iPhone, and then DaVinci Resolve to edit, as it's a free editing software and one of the best out there. The sort of films I make have this urban social realist thing. What I normally do is drain the colour, because for some reason that adds to the reality. Because these women are so colourful, I decided to try going the other way, and I tried pumping up the saturation instead. Almost immediately, I was sold. One movie critic called it pop verite, and that was exactly the combination I was going for. Talking about the look in a film like this is a tough one, because a lot of the look of Tangerine was bound by the fact that Baker had to use an iPhone, and an iPhone 5S at that. Now, a good cinematographer doesn't need a good camera, as cinematography is telling a story through pictures, and you do that through movement, composition, colour, as well as many other things, and not the fact of if it was shot on film. But with that being said, it's still tough. But Baker made it work. His use of colour was masterful in creating a mood, and I'm sure the first thing you thought of when you saw the film today was how vibrant it was. It kind of juxtaposes the story in a way, not the characters because they're colourful, but the story itself is a sad one. Now, I'm going to quickly touch on the lighting because there isn't enough to talk about for it to have its own section, as it was pretty much non-existent here. But one of the cinematographers, Radium Chung, only bought 3 battery-powered lights, and that was for a 22-day shoot. Granted, they only needed it to fill in eye light, everything else was done using bounces, but there were no C-stand conventional lights, it was all just done with natural light and good character placement. But how do you keep a film like this in budget? Baker only had $100,000, which is pitiful when shooting in LA, even more for a feature film, and looking after a whole crew and cast for 22 days isn't cheap. They had to save money in more than a few places, but one of those places, as I already mentioned, was the camera department, and they used the money they saved there to pay for shooting locations and extras, which is 100 times more important than an extra K in your image. It does have its drawbacks though. Co-cinematographer Radium Chung almost hung up on Baker when he said they were going to shoot on the 5S. You're very restricted by time, as the phones will run out quickly even if you do have backups, and at the end of the day, distributors will look down on a film shot on an iPhone, even more so when it's a heavy story like this. But on the flip side, having a low budget brings out the best of a lot of filmmakers. You learn to adapt, your future films will have that signature style that you've developed through the low budget filmmaking, and in my own experience, it's a lot more fun. But that's it for today's video. I've been meaning to make one on Tangerine for a while, and I'm so glad I finally did. It's one of the best indie films to ever grace our screens, and it's set on Christmas Eve, so it's technically a Christmas film, but it's great for all year round too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. You know what to do if you did. If I have a recommendation for an analysis, leave them below. Thanks so much for watching. Maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.